So what will be the focus of talks between the hereditary chiefs and the government ministers, and what will it take to make enough progress to see the rail blockades and protests come to an end? Stuart Phillip is the president of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs. We have reached him in Vancouver. Grand Chief Phillip, first of all, thanks for taking my call today. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon.
What do you think it will take for these discussions between the ministers and the hereditary chiefs of the Wetsuweten to bring us to a successful outcome? What are you watching for?
Well, the demands are quite simple on the part of the Wetsuweten hereditary leadership. They are simply demanding that the Prime Minister and the Premier of British Columbia honor their invitation to a face-to-face meeting. They're seeking a complete withdrawal of the heavy influx of RCMP into the territory. And finally, they're looking at rerouting the pipeline whereby it's not infringing upon integrity of their Aboriginal title within their territory.
So the meetings are happening today. In fact, we've seen the release from the Wetsuweten because the RCMP has agreed to the demands of the hereditary chiefs to leave the territory, and Coastal GasLink today has agreed to take a 2-day pause in the construction to allow space for these discussions. So do you believe that's also enough for the hereditary chiefs to perhaps signal they want an end to the rail blockades and the protests now, or is that premature?
I think it's premature. There's a vast difference between the RCMP making public statements to the effect that they're prepared to leave. They come in with a great deal of fanfare into the territory. I think we want to see them leave in the same fashion, to know that they have completely and fully disengaged. They have removed their little Fort Apache detachment that they established on a very remote forest road. They need to vacate the territory completely. They need to be seen doing that. And in terms of Coastal GasLink, they were asked over a 10-year period to reconsider the routing of the line, and they have vehemently opposed that suggestion. They've simply brushed it aside. I think now is the time for them to seriously consider rerouting the line.
So do you believe that ultimately the hereditary chiefs will hold to that demand, that at the very least the pipeline be rerouted, that is a bottom line, and beyond that the talks go nowhere if that isn't what emerges, and fairly quickly from these conversations?
Yes, I believe there has to be substantive offers put on the table for us to see any movement and de-escalation of the solidarity actions that have reverberated throughout the country. And
do you think there also need to be concrete offers for the BC and the federal governments, well, the federal government in particular? Do you think that there'll need to be a concrete commitment from the federal government to finally deal with this issue of hereditary rights and title that is largely at the heart of this dispute?
Yes, absolutely. We know that the Trudeau government offered in a grandiose speech on Valentine's Day in 2018 to deal with these issues, and then they fell short of that. Now, once again, they're paying lip service to their intentions. We need something beyond public platitudes and intentions. We need the Government of Canada to sit down and begin this work where we have acknowledgement of the legal plurality that exists in this country with respect to the traditional laws, and legal institutions of Indigenous peoples. Certainly it's reflected in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. It's been at the heart of Supreme Court decisions. Now it's time to translate this into legislative reform, so we have a very well delineated process to work through large-scale resource development proposals.
Let me finish on this with you, because we are going to hear this. We've heard it from the government, this conversation around who speaks for the Wet'suwet'en people. And as we know, the elected band councils along the pipeline route, they support the project. Some of the hereditary chiefs do as well. What weight should the Wet'suwet'en supporters of the project, who see this pipeline as a major economic benefit for their communities, what weight should they have in the decision-making process?
Well, first of all, we need to clarify something that's been completely overlooked by the public debate over this issue. The so-called 20 band councils, the vast majority of them are not even Wet'suwet'en. They're from other territories and other groups. Some of them are even from Alberta. So the collective notion that there are 20 Wet'suwet'en band councils in support of the project is absolutely false. I believe there's possibly 4 or 5 Wet'suwet'en band councils that support the project. I believe 4 support it, 1 band council does not, and 5 hereditary leaders oppose it. So that's the reality. It's been misreported on the notion that there are 20 Wet'suwet'en band councils that support the project.
All right, Stuart Phillip, thanks so much for your time. We'll watch with great interest to see how these conversations go and see what kind of progress can be made in these crucial meetings. Thank you for your perspective. Always good to talk to you.
Thank you.